Jinu reached Hunter Association. Go Gunhee showed him the video, recorded by a CCTV camera, was shocking. President Go explained that the creature in the video had killed 300 people. The ant monster had wreaked havoc in a Japanese village in less than 30 minutes before hunters could respond, despite Japan's efficient hunter network. This devastation made President Go worry about what would happen if such a creature attacked mainland Korea. The operation to exterminate these monsters was scheduled to begin in 4 days. Japan had been pressuring him for a list of participating Korean hunters, but he had delayed providing it because he couldn't contact Jinu until now. Finally, the time had come to finalize the list. President Go's heart raced as he addressed Jinu, explaining that they were planning to go to Jeju Island to eliminate the ants once and for all. His desperation was clear as he asked for Jinu's help. President Go knew that if Jinu refused, there would be nothing he could do. Jinu, not belonging to any guild and not being obligated to assist the association, held the decision entirely in his hands. Under normal circumstances, Jinu would eagerly seize the chance to face high-ranking beasts and level up. However, with his mother having just woken from a coma, his thoughts were consumed with concern for her and his sister. After the meeting with President Go wrapped up, Jinu was standing to leave, but suddenly sensed something strange. He felt clashes of mana nearby. His first thought was a dungeon break, but he quickly dismissed it. The mana clearly belonged to multiple hunters, not a magic beast. President Go, standing by the door to see Jinu out, noticed his sudden change in demeanor. Jinu mentioned that he sensed hunters fighting nearby, which seemed impossible to President Go. Gunhee, noticing Jinu's distraction, remarked with a laugh, praising Jinwoo for his sharp awareness. He explained that what Jinu felt was likely the intense activity of S-rank hunters nearby, possibly warming up in the gym in preparation for the Jeju Island raid, which was only 4 days away. The chairman mentioned that even the renowned Japanese hunters, including the legendary Goto Ryuji, were present. President Go then mildly asked if Jinu would like to visit the gym himself. It was a rare occasion for all the S-rank hunters to gather together. As a newly minted S-rank, Jinu wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to see what the other S-ranks could do. Intrigued, Jinu followed Chairman Gunny to the gym. In the center of the room, a shirtless Bake was sparring with a massive middle-aged man. Bake batted away the other's hand, twisted his lower body, and delivered a powerful low kick. Yet it was Bake who grimaced. Despite Ma Dongwook's encouragement, Bake appeared to struggle, indicating the intensity of the training. The two men appeared to be having fun. Both Master Dongwook on the offensive and Bake on the defensive seemed to be enjoying themselves, relishing the rare opportunity to spar with a fellow S-rank. Gunhee pointed out the rarity of seeing so many S-rank hunters gathered in one place, suggesting that the mana Jinu felt earlier likely came from them. Jinu noticed Bake's difficulty in keeping up with Dongwook, though Gunhee reassured him that Bake's full power would be overwhelming for even Dongwook to handle. Yongin approached Jinu and struck up a conversation. The two exchanged nods and greeting, and Yongin explained that the man in the judogi was Dongwook from the famed guild. Jinu had heard the name before and realized he was a guild master of one of the top guilds. Curious, Jinu asked why President Bake was holding back. Yongin explained that Bake didn't like using his full power with so many people watching. When he went all out, he transformed into a real monster. Yongin also stated that there are more hunters who have gathered over her here for the raid. Izawa Ippei, Ishida Marie, Tanaka Kenzo, Hoshino Minoru, and Kimamoto Atsushi. Jinu recognized Goto Ryuji, the strongest hunter from Japan, immediately. He was tall and smartly dressed, with a neatly trimmed mustache. As the gathered hunters observed the new arrival, Shimizu questioned who he was. Hanekawa quickly identified him as Sung Jinu, a hunter who had recently been promoted to S-rank. Goto, who had not sensed Jinu's approach, found this unsettling. Despite looking directly at Jinu, Goto still couldn't perceive his presence, leading him to suspect that Jinu might be an assassin-class hunter. This made Goto realize that Jinu must be exceptionally skilled. However, Hanekawa clarified that Jinu was a mage-type hunter, which seemed impossible to Goto until Hanekawa confirmed it had been officially verified. Lim Tae-gyu recognized Jinu as the one who had disrupted Minsung's debut. Cha Hae-in, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, deduced that Jinu was the cause. Amidst the gathering, Kei felt nauseous due to the number of S-rank hunters present. When she noticed Cha Hae-in, she speculated that Cha also had a sensitive nose, but was probably not as high-ranked as herself. Kei wondered if trying to converse with Cha might be misconstrued as flirting, regretting not having learned some Korean. Hanekawa commented on the mediocrity of South Korea's strongest hunters, which Goto questioned. Hanekawa attributed her lack of impression to having observed Goto's raids for a while. Goto, however, pointed out that Hae-in and Go Gun-hee seemed noteworthy and could rival Japan's best hunters. Park Jong-soo, the guild master of the Knights Guild, took offense at Hanekawa's remarks. Despite being only an A-rank hunter, he boasted about the guild's strength and his role in the upcoming Cheju raid. Hanekawa, unperturbed, revealed herself as an A-rank hunter from Japan, challenging Jong-soo's dismissive attitude. This led to a confrontation where Jong-soo proposed a simple contest. The first to grab the opponent's wrist would win. The confrontation between Hanekawa and Jong-soo escalated quickly. Despite Hanekawa's swift and aggressive attacks, Jong-soo dodged effortlessly. His confidence in his speed was evident as he maintained a defensive stance, taunting Hanekawa. Eventually, Jong-soo grabbed her wrist, ending the contest and demonstrating his superior combat experience. He explained that unlike magic beasts, predicting a human's next move was crucial, and his combat experience gave him an edge. Goto, observing the match, suggested sparring matches between the S-rank hunters from both countries to build trust. President Go Gun-hee agreed, with the condition that mage-type and non-combatant hunters be excluded due to the difficulty in judging such matches. Additional rules were proposed, including multiple hunters engaging simultaneously and the conditions for victory being expanded to touching the opponent's wrist or back or knocking them down. With these rules in place, the teams were set. South Korea would send out Baek, Ma Dong-wook, Cha Hae-in, and Lim Tae-gyu, while Japan would field Tanaka Kenzo, Hoshino Minoru, Kumamoto Atsushi, and Tawata Kanai. The stage was set for a series of intense matches that would showcase the skills and strengths of the top hunters from both nations. As Jinu observed the scene unfolding before him, he noticed that Goto Ryuji wasn't participating. He pondered over this, thinking that perhaps Goto simply wanted to gauge their strength. Nonetheless, witnessing a match between S-rank hunters was a rare opportunity, and Jinu was glad to be present. Tanaka Kenzo was in a bout with Ma Dong-wook. Kenzo had already assessed Ma Dong-wook and Baek from their earlier fight, but had a nagging feeling that Baek was concealing something. On the other side, a 4-on-4 match seemed to imply that Tawata Kanae's opponent will be Cha Hae-in. Taegyu seemed hopeful that their opponents would take it easy on them, while Dong-wook announced the start of the match. Dong-wook's ability to grow bigger indicated his preference for strength battles, a straightforward approach that Kenzo found commendable. As the sparring began, the room filled with tension. Taegyu noted his opponent's speed, deducing that close quarters combat would put him at a disadvantage. His specialty was creating distance and attacking from afar, a strategy he promptly adopted by launching a magic arrow. Gun-hee, observing, remarked on the fortification of the facility, noting that it had been made using high-quality essence stones. Average hunters would struggle to damage the walls, yet the place was already wrecked in mere seconds. He lamented the necessity of sending young hunters into battle against some of the world's most powerful S ranks, and resolved to be prepared for anything, even if it meant breaking the opponent's wrists if needed. Kumamoto observed Baek seemed to be wasting his energy. He lunged at Baek, not adhering to any specific rules, operating instead by the principle of survival of the fittest. Baek noted Kumamoto's intent to kill, but wondered why he hesitated, speculating whether Kumamoto might be scared. Kumamoto, meanwhile, doubted his own suitability as a hunter. Baek, contemplating Kumamoto's behavior, couldn't decide whether the man had great judgment or was simply a coward. Baek realized Goto's motives seemed clear. He wanted to test their strength, possibly in preparation for fighting the ants. This realization stirred something within him, prompting Baek to decide it was time to show a glimpse of his true strength. His demeanor shifted noticeably, and a fierce determination settled in his eyes. The intensity of his gaze was so powerful that it struck fear into his opponent, Kumamoto, who suddenly felt overwhelmed by a deep sense of dread. Kumamoto's confidence wavered, and he was gripped by the desire to escape the confrontation altogether. Without hesitation, Baek surged forward with incredible speed, his sharp claws aimed directly at Kumamoto. As the match progressed, Jong-soo and his associate marveled at the monstrous power levels present, realizing their earlier matches were mere child's play in comparison. The sparring sessions yielded decisive outcomes. Tanaka Kenzo defeated Ma Dong-wook, with the latter laughing off his unexpected defeat, while Hoshino Minoru overcame Lim Tae-gyu. Bake prepared for his turn, feeling underestimated compared to Heian. Tawada, sparring with Heian, struggled to keep up with her unpredictable movements. Heian's nickname, the Dancer, reflected her swift, deadly efficiency, a name she found embarrassing and had therefore discouraged its use. Heian deftly dodged Tawada's attacks and tapped her out of the sparring match, quickly moving to assist Bake, who was facing two opponents. As she tried to intervene, Kumamoto attempted a sneak attack, but Heian responded with blinding speed, landing a flurry of punches that left observers in awe. They couldn't believe how many times she hit him in the blink of an eye. Heian realized her excessive instinctive response, while observers noted that Kumamoto lost control when angry, becoming irrational and dangerous. Despite his capability of clearing a B-rank gate alone, Goto, overseeing the test, ordered his team to let Kumamoto be for now, prepared to intervene if necessary. As Kumamoto prepared to attack Heian again, Jinu intervened, cautioning that they were getting too carried away in what was supposed to be a sparring session. Kumamoto, enraged, tried to grab Jinu, only to be slammed to the ground. Goto, puzzled by Jinu's movements, questioned if Jinu was truly a mage-type hunter, to which Hanekawa confirmed based on official statements. Jinu suggested calling the match a loss for the South Korean hunters, and Heian agreed. Acknowledging the overwhelming strength of the Japanese hunters, Bake conceded that even transforming wouldn't have made a difference, accepting their defeat gracefully. Goto approached Jinu with a direct request for a one-on-one fight. His expression was intense, his eyes fixed on Jinu, and he spoke through a translator. Jinu listened as the translator relayed Goto's request. It was clear that Goto wanted to see what Jinu could do. Jinu looked at Goto, trying to discern his true intentions. Goto was renowned and wasn't interested in merely showing off his skills. If he wanted to flaunt his abilities, he would have challenged one of the top Korean guild leaders. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in Jinu. Jinu wasn't opposed to the idea of a fight. He was eager to test the skills he had honed in the Demon's Castle and curious about the abilities of Japan's best hunter. Jinu could see that Goto was curious about his abilities as well. However, Goto was surprised when he saw Jinu's relaxed demeanor. Jinu spoke to the translator, who seemed hesitant but eventually conveyed Jinu's response to Goto. The translator informed Goto that Jinu accepted the challenge but had a condition. Goto was puzzled by this and wanted to know what the condition was. The translator explained that Jinu would accept the fight only if Goto intended to give it his all. This condition took Goto by surprise. He had expected Jinu to be hesitant, but instead, Jinu was making demands. Goto observed the situation with a sense of amusement, finding the unfolding events rather entertaining. He knew they had a valuable asset in Shimizu, an S-rank healer. With Shimizu's abilities, any injuries they might sustain in the upcoming moments wouldn't pose a serious threat. Goto instructed Shimizu to be prepared, ensuring that anyone injured would receive immediate assistance, including Jinu, as he would be needing her help in a few minutes. The onlookers, comprising other S-rank hunters and association employees, gathered around Jinu and Mr. Goto. They were a mix of excitement and concern. Among them was Heian, deeply worried for Jinu's safety. However, she remembered how Jinu had fought an A-rank dungeon boss and over 100 high orcs. This memory made her heart race and her anticipation soar, preventing her from stepping in. Bake, who had done several raids with Heian in the past and was aware of her condition, stood next to her. He acknowledged her struggle with a nod when she mentioned that she couldn't avoid other hunters forever, especially on Jeju Island. When Heian inquired his connection with Jinu and wondered why he wasn't trying to dissuade Jinu from accepting such a dangerous fight. Under normal circumstances, Bake might have done so, but this was no ordinary situation. Jinu's opponent was none other than Goto Ryuji, a formidable S-rank hunter. Heian couldn't understand why Bake wasn't more worried, so she pressed him for an answer. To her surprise, Bake revealed that he shared the same reason as she did for not stepping in. This statement caught Heian off guard. Usually calm and composed, she was surprised by how well Bake understood her feelings. Despite her concern, she couldn't ignore the thrill that had gripped her, the thought that maybe, just maybe, Jinu could achieve the impossible. Bake smiled, his eyes sparkling with anticipation as he turned his attention back to Jinu and Mr. Goto. He shared Heian's excitement and belief that Jinu might be an awakened being with growing abilities. Finally, the moment of truth arrived, but before Jinu could fully prepare, Goto attacked. Goto swung at the space where Jinu's head had been. He was shocked to find he missed. His attempt to knock Jinu out with a single punch had failed because Jinu had dodged and put some distance between them. Jinu's reaction time was remarkable for someone considered a mage hunter. Goto couldn't believe his eyes. It seemed impossible that Jinu moved with such speed and silence. He must be an assassin-class hunter. Goto was determined to expose Jinu's true abilities and was excited by the challenge. Meanwhile, Jinu stood far enough from Goto, listening to his heartbeat. His heart pounded, but instead of fear, he felt a surge of confidence. Goto's strength was on a different level from other S-rank hunters, yet Jinu felt assured, realizing how much he had improved by leveling up to 97. His confidence was evident on his face. Goto's expression hardened when he saw Jinu smiling. Annoyed, Goto released an incredible amount of mana, making the onlookers shudder. They began to worry about the seriousness of the sparring. The spectators were captivated by Goto's fierce offense and Jinu's evasive maneuvers. They were amazed that Jinu was holding his own, but Heian knew better. Jinu wasn't just holding his own, he was goading Goto into attacking. As Jung-in returned from his break, he noticed an intense match had begun in his absence. The atmosphere was charged, and it was clear that the sparring between Jinu and Goto Ryuji had taken a serious turn. Goto, realizing that Jinu was no ordinary opponent, felt the need to unleash his full strength. His frustration boiled over, and he decided that holding back was no longer an option. With murderous intent, Goto resolved to kill Jinu. At that moment, Jinu received a system notification warning him of the imminent danger. The system alerted him to the murderous intent coming from someone nearby, heightening his awareness. Goto, consumed by rage, launched a powerful and precise attack aimed at Jinu. His sharp nails grazed Jinu's cheek, narrowly missing his eye. Instinctively, Jinu grabbed Goto's hand, stopping the attack. As Jinu held Goto's hand, he realized the seriousness of the situation. He knew that if he continued to treat this as a simple sparring match, it could escalate into something far more dangerous. Memories of past encounters with Hwang Dong-suk and Kang Taishik flashed through his mind, reminding him of the system's urgent quests that had pushed him to the brink. The near miss with Goto's attack made him realize just how close he had come to losing an eye. Goto, on the other hand, was shocked by Jinu's strength. He couldn't comprehend how Jinu was so powerful, and the fact that Jinu had deliberately grabbed his hand instead of his wrist only added to his confusion. Jinu, with a smirk, acknowledged Goto's confusion and hinted that the fight could have ended differently if he had chosen to grab Goto's wrist instead. Both men stared at each other, the tension between them building as they prepared to turn their sparring into a real battle. However, before they could escalate further, Baek and Heian intervened. Baek grabbed Jinu's shoulder while Heian held onto his wrist with all her strength, restraining him. On the other side, Hoshino Minoru pulled Goto back while Kei cast an ice spell to create a wall of ice between them, preventing the situation from spiraling out of control. Jinu looked over his shoulder to see Baek reminding him that Goto was responsible for leading the Japanese team in a few days, and Heian pointed out the severe consequences if anything happened to him. Their intervention helped Jinu regain his composure, and Baek suggested ending the sparring session. Recognizing that it had gone too far, Hanekawa agreed, and with the tension diffused, the match was called off. Baek asked Jinu if he had overstepped his boundaries by intervening, but Jinu reassured him that he had not. As the onlookers approached, their regard for Jinu had changed. Dong Wook, the guild master of the famed guild, was the first to reach him, praising Jinu for sparring with Goto and emerging with only a scratch. Admiring Jinu's muscles, Dong Wook invited him to join the famed guild, only to be corrected by Jong-in that Jinu was actually a mage class. Dong Wook was surprised by this revelation. As Jinu reflected on the encounter, he realized that he had gained valuable insight into the strength of everyone around him. Yet, despite their abilities, none of them had noticed the soldiers hiding in Jinu's shadow. Even Goto Ryuji, with all his power, hadn't sensed anything out of place. President Go approached Jinu, who informed him of his decision not to participate in the upcoming raid. Gun-hee was taken aback by this unexpected response. Meanwhile, Goto assessed his own condition. Despite the cool weather, sweat was beading on his forehead.